Imagine a narrow lane at dawn, woven baskets stacked like small mountains, women arranging bolts of silk the color of sunrise, a man scraping the last grains from a clay pot while a child chases a chicken underfoot. What could a single market stall tell us about a country's history? Welcome to Ancient Echoes. I'm your host, Sam Nang Bradley, and today we step into the living, breathing world of Khmer marketplaces.
In today's episode, we're exploring Khmer marketplaces, how a stall, a price, a handcrafted object can trace trade routes, family stories, and techniques handed down through generations. We'll walk through their origins, how market rhythms shape daily life, and what these marketplaces reveal about Cambodian culture and continuity.
Over the next hour, I'll take you from Angkorian-era trade hubs to riverside bazaars, unpack the anatomy of a market, dive into craft and commodity stories, and share practical advice for recognizing authentic Khmer craftsmanship and supporting preservation efforts. Let's begin with where these markets come from.
Section 1. Historical context and the market's shape. When we say Khmer markets, we're describing centuries of exchange, not just of goods, but of techniques, names, songs, and relationships. Angkorian centers sat on waterways and overland routes. Goods moved by river and by people. Markets were hubs where regional produce, imported beads, and local craft converged. That convergence is the foundation of what we now recognize as Cambodian trade networks.
The archaeological and textual evidence shows markets as organized spaces, seasonal gatherings tied to harvest cycles, permanent bazaars near temples or river ports, and itinerant traders linking rural workshops to urban customers. Those arrangements tell us about agricultural rhythms, craft specialization, and social roles, how families structured labor, and how communities set time aside for exchange.
Let's unpack the anatomy of a typical market. Picture a core lane where fresh food is sold, fish, rice, seasonal greens, flanked by aisles of household wares, textiles, and tools. Near the water, you'll often find larger goods and traders who move by boat. In the center, shelter or raised platforms provide shade and space to display fragile items like lacquerware or pottery.
Labor in the market has a rhythm. Vendors arrive before dawn, set out goods, and call to familiar customers. Middlemen or wholesalers may bring bundles from village producers, while small-scale artisans rent a permanent stall or return on market days. Gendered labor is visible. In many places, women manage daily stalls and household markets, while certain trades, boat loading or large-scale distribution, are more commonly male-dominated. These patterns are not universal, but they point to how economic roles shape social life.
The language of exchange matters too. Bargaining is a performance and a memory store. Prices, phrases, and little stories get passed along with goods. Rituals, offering the first portion of a catch or arranging goods in a particular way, can mark respect for craft or the market itself. The layers matter. Every act in the market carries cultural meaning.
Section 2. Craft and commodity stories. Markets are classrooms for technique. A bolt of silk can reveal dye recipes, trade connections, even symbolic choices. A pattern that traveled from a provincial village to an urban atelier. Pottery forms can show regional clay sources and firing methods. Lacquerware's sheen speaks to long processes, multiple layers, sanding, polishing, labor that rarely shows up in a price tag.
Take textiles. Hand-woven sampots and patterned textiles often carry local motifs and an economy of knowledge. Weavers exchange patterns at markets, observe each other's techniques, and sometimes adapt designs to customer demand. That exchange keeps methods alive and allows innovations to spread, a kind of living curriculum passed across stalls.
Pottery and lacquerware travel similar paths. An artisan's distinctive mark may be known to traders, while certain finishes are sought after in distant towns. Foodstuffs, the way fish are salted, how rice is sorted and described, also carry regional signatures. These objects become mnemonic anchors for community memory. A vessel's rim or a cloth's motif can evoke a village, a family, a lineage of practice.
Let's bring in some market voices. Here are composite, anonymized recollections woven from many interviews. An elder who learned weaving from her mother and describes a market morning as a long conversation with fabric. A trader who recalls a single clay pot that marked a shift in demand when townspeople took to a new cooking style. These voices show how craftsmanship and market life are inseparable. Technique travels with story. Spargening stories often become small songs or mnemonics. A vendor might hum a tune while packing an order. A buyer will remember the rhythm of a good price. That cadence, these little oral fragments, are how craft knowledge, provenance, and trust move through generations without written records.
Section 3. Continuity, Change, and Preservation. Markets are resilient, but also adaptive. Colonial-era shifts, transport improvements, and modern tourism introduced new goods and changed demand. Yet many traditional practices endured because markets keep them connected to daily life. When demand wanes, knowledge can retreat into household practice or community workshops, sometimes at risk of fading entirely.
This is where ethical engagement matters. If you visit a Khmer market, look beyond souvenirs. Ask about how a piece was made, who made it, and whether it carries sacred meaning or restrictions. Avoid buying items that are restricted by communities or that require removal of cultural objects. Support sellers who can describe their craft's production chain. That's often a sign of sustainable practice.
How to recognize authentic craftsmanship. Check for irregularities that indicate handwork. Ask about materials and techniques. Look for signs of age or traditional repair techniques. Consider provenance. Does the seller identify a village or family workshop? These questions help you support living traditions rather than fueling mass-produced imitations.
There are also tangible ways listeners can help preservation. Seek out community-based cooperatives, donate to or volunteer with local cultural documentation projects, and share stories with appropriate credit. The research tells us that small, consistent support often matters more than one-off purchases for long-term craft survival.
Before we close, a quick practical checklist for respectful market visits. Arrive early. Observe market rhythms. Ask permission before photographing. Negotiate kindly. Favor verified cooperatives. And prioritize items with clear social contexts. Remember, markets are people first. Spaces of labor, memory, and negotiation. Recap. Markets are more than commerce. They are living archives where craft techniques, social bonds, and memory meet. From the riverine trade routes of the past to today's town bazaars, Khmer marketplaces continue to shape how communities transmit knowledge and sustain identity.
If this episode has sparked curiosity, consider exploring further resources, local craft cooperatives, ethnographic studies on Khmer trade networks, and Samnong's visual field notes on his YouTube channel. The layers matter, and every visit, question, and careful purchase helps keep these traditions alive.
That brings us to the end of this episode. If you enjoyed Market Voices, please follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app and share your own market memories with us on social media. You can also find visual companions and field footage on my YouTube channel for a closer look at stalls, techniques, and artisan stories. Let's unlock the echoes of history together.
Gentle outro music fades in softly. That brings us to the end of this episode of Ancient Echoes. We hope these stories helped you see Cambodian history and culture in a deeper, more human way.
The echoes of the past live on in people's voices, memories, and everyday lives. Thank you for listening and for making space for these stories.
If this episode resonated with you, please follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who might appreciate these conversations.
You can also connect with us and share your own stories or questions at our social handles and website. We'd love to hear how these echoes sound in your life.
Until next time, thank you for listening to Ancient Echoes.
Music swells briefly, then fades out.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair, my sight is way. Sacred power, swai, mighty spirit awakened. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, swai.